on Twitch, live right now on YouTube, and getting up there on Sportscaster. So, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is a 4-game NBA slate, just 4 games total. There's no smaller slate showdowns, anything earlier in the day. It's a little bit different. So if you're used to a lot of my live content during the NFL season, you're getting a little bit different, maybe on Patreon. You're getting something a little bit different here, which is going to be live content right now for the 4-game slate for the next 45 minutes or so on this DFS slate via DraftKings perspective, fantasy draft, ask your questions. And the big part of this format is going to be a couple things. So one, I released my projections for today that are usually on Patreon for free. I made an announcement via Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram to figure out how, but I'll also be showing some on-screen projections as well. And then, it's very Q&A centric. So what's going on, Matthew? I see people filing in. So the biggest thing right now is really just very Q&A centric. Get your questions in. So we have a later lock today, 7:30. I'll be on until about 6:15. Is this an everyday thing now, says Dan? No, it will not be an everyday type of thing. Probably focus it more towards smaller slates just because it's easier to prep for, but I'll be trying now with the NFL done to be doing some more of these live content, trying to work around how to get some out on YouTube, some out on Patreon some days a week, but it's not going to be an everyday thing. It will be hopefully a couple of days a week thing, but sorting through the process on a nice small 4-game slate seems like it makes a lot of sense. Been waiting all day for this to make my lineups. I already purchased them. You already purchased them. I don't know what that means. Oh, the projections, very nice. Favors are DeJounte Murray, says Matthew. I'm not high on either. Favors would be the guy there for me. I think that he stands out the most today. I'm not as high as either. I'm not as high as the field on Favors. I like the price point, 4,900. It seems like they've been very strict with his minutes. Just through all the injuries, it seems like they kind of want to be that way. Maybe some sort of moving piece with him during the All-Star break, depending if they want to decide if they're sellers or not. We'll find that out really soon, but I would go Favors there. But yeah, it's going to be, the biggest thing is really for me to just say it's going to not be an everyday thing, this type of a format. But it will, without a doubt, be something that is when I have the chance to and have opportunities to, I'll be trying to do it, maybe get back out here on Thursday as well. Won't ever be up till lock just because on my end for Patreon, I have to be updating projections, but we'll be somewhere around this time, 2 hours before lock, do a 45-minute show, something like that. But it's going to be different than a lot of the shows you see in the industry, and I'm taking a lot of time here at the front, couple of minutes, just to let you know. For the NBA, it's going to be very Q&A centric. I'm pretty much going to look at chat, so if you want your questions answered, this is a really good time to have that done. Something that I have been trying to do a lot as of late. So I will be showing my projections on screen today. So if you are a member of Patreon, do not worry. This is not an everyday thing. This is the projections on screen, at most a once a week thing. So it's a good point to, or a good piece to be able to talk through this slate. Now, ownership's obviously a huge part of that. I do not do my own ownership projections. I use third parties, and I will not be showing those on screen. But with that being said, appreciate it. Everybody being here. If you're new here and you find me from some sort of channel and now you just landed upon me, I do cover daily fantasy sports, XFL right now, PGA and NBA. NFL just ended, and a variety of other sports when they're in season, WNBA, MLB as well in the past, and potentially the future. But feel free to hit the subscribe button. Now I'm going to just start answering anybody's questions. So this is just my target offense sheet, pace, Vegas, all that stuff. Injury updates. So briefly, the only things we're really waiting on is Russell Westbrook's doubtful, probably not going to play, but not officially ruled out. Jamal Murray and PJ Washington are the only question marks. George Hill, who I had questionable earlier in the day, they put out their official injury report in Milwaukee, and he has been ruled out and likely to return on the by the 6th, or at least at the earliest the 6th. So with that being said, not playing tonight, but dropping in to say I love the idea of going live. See you next time. I'll actually be playing. Nice, Mike. Nice to see you, Michael. Nice to see you. Mike Taylor right after that says, yo, Sally, how you doing? Doing very good. Pivot off Carmelo, says Israel. Carmelo's not really chalky. So Carmelo's low owned for a 4-game slate, mid-teens in ownership last time I saw. You don't have to pivot off of him. I think pivoting onto him would be the thing you're doing there, trying to get more unique. He doesn't stand out as an overwhelming play with all the value you have on this slate, but he does look decent. I'm going to be showing these projections, so I'll pull them up on the screen right now, actually. The way that I have this set up, I have the chat here. I don't think that'll stick, but smart to pivot away from Harden with the big ownership and try to get to LeBron and Giannis, or LeBron and Davis in the same lineup. So I don't think it's dumb to pivot away from Harden. So he's my highest projected player by like 6 or 7 points. Let me pull up those projections right now, actually, for everybody. So bear with me as I get these projections on screen. Oh, that was a lot easier than I thought. Look at that. Simple. So these are my projections that I offer on Patreon every day. I already made the announcement earlier today in the video that these would be today free if you follow her on Instagram. You had them in the story. They went up a couple minutes before the live stream. These are not free every day. This is the first time that I'm ever showing these on screen, and it won't be often. But as a talking piece for a live show, it's good to, right now they're filtered by salary. I'll filter it by, or filtered by value. I'll filter it by salary. So if you're talking about projections, I have Harden projected right now for 5.5 more points than Giannis. When you factor in ownership, and Giannis is going to come in half to a third of the ownership as Harden, yeah, I think that you can clearly pivot away from Harden if you want to. I think you could play both of them. I would not be getting to lineups with LeBron and Davis in the same lineup. Obviously, they cut into each other. I don't think on some slates that it's the worst idea, but especially today when I have both Giannis and Harden projected for 10 and 11 more fantasy points than LeBron and Davis at the minimum, Harden somewhere around 16 more. I'm just not going to favor those lineups. I think that's getting a little bit too different. So Harden, I love. He's projecting for close to 69 fantasy points. He stands out really good. Ownership is clearly following it, but no Russ, no Capella. We all know the story. He's in line to be projected for around 70 fantasy points for a lot of people. That makes sense. And honestly, the ownership's not matching it. I thought maybe it'll bump up as the final couple hours come in and a lot more people build lineups after work, on the East Coast at least with the 5 p.m. But a situation where 30-40% owned, that doesn't seem that high on a 4-game slate. Giannis, though, at 15 is clearly underpriced, I would say. Giannis or Lillard, I would prefer Giannis by a lot there. Hey, Sal, good luck tonight. How's the ownership difference between Harden and Giannis? Last time I checked, Giannis is like half the ownership, if not more of a gap than Harden. So if you want to get different by going to Giannis, I don't think it's the worst idea. I prefer Harden, but I think it's completely fine. I think playing both of them is fine if you can find enough value pieces. But yeah, you do save 600 if that helps you get to somebody else that you like. I think both are fine. I think the ownership on Harden is okay. I think the ownership on Giannis is definitely something that you could take advantage of as it being pretty low. What's going on, Mike? Whiteside or Jokic, Sal? Thanks. I would prefer Jokic there. I'm a little bit lower than a lot of people around the industry that I've seen today on Jokic. But, I mean, you could say great things about him. I guess the Murray news will impact where I come in on him overall. And with that being said, I'll see if we have any updates on anything from Murray. Nothing from him. All right, cool. Thanks for doing this, Sal. Yeah, no problem, Steve. No problem, man. Loading up on the Rockets seems the way to go for cash. Rivers and McLemore just too cheap, and then obviously Harden up top. Yeah, so Matthew brings up a good point, and I think it's a question of how many Rockets to play in cash. And he's just pointing out a statement, but it brings up a question in my head. Yeah, I mean, Rockets seem like great options for cash. Rivers, I imagine he's going to draw a start here. I don't think McLemore starts. I think you get Rivers and House starting with PJ Tucker at the 5. That's what you've been seeing as of late. It could all change the slate if Hartenstein starts at the 5. Then you get Tucker starting at the 4. And you might not get House in the starting lineup. You probably don't in that situation. So do keep an eye on this. It's not a guarantee that Tucker starts at the 5. That's just what we've seen for the past week and a half. But if Hartenstein or Chandler started at the 5, if it was Chandler, I'd probably give him around 20 minutes. Hartenstein, I'd probably give him around 24 minutes. I would update that in the projections. But I do think Rivers and Harden are the two best cash options from the Rockets. And then I think it's pretty close between McLemore and Tucker after that. But yeah, I mean, they're both cheap. Rivers and McLemore in the 3K range. McLemore seems a little bit more risky, as he should. Even in games where Russ is missed, Capella and Russ have missed, he still only plays like low to mid 20s because of the amount of bodies they have out there. Sebalosha's been playing a lot more minutes as of late. I have McLemore grading out very well, and we can pull up the value chart here. He's going to pop to the top. McLemore. 20 fantasy points, 6x value. It's because he's so cheap. But they can easily give Sefolosha an extra 4 minutes and cut 2 to 4 from McLemore, and that hurts him a lot. So he is cheap, but you're talking about cash. I think he's actually risky. You're talking about GPPs. If he's picking up ownership, last time I checked, the ownership came down on him. Not as risky now since the ownership is coming down, but I would prefer Austin Rivers, even at the higher ownership. I think he's like the highest projected guy in the slate. McLemore, right now, somebody that I'm okay getting to whatever amount I get to, but I do want to just point out the caution of they can give his minutes to a guy like Sefolosha, and I wouldn't be surprised. How many Rockets are too much? So to answer that question, how many Rockets are too much? I think if you get to 4 Rockets in Simon lineups, that's fine. Your issue there is, look, it's a 4-game slate, so that's why if this was like a 10-game slate, I would say 3 is the most I want. 4 Rockets is the most I would want, but I'm not going to have a lot of lineups with 4. 2 to 3 will be the average number that I get to in a lot of, probably closer to 2. The second pay-up option is tough to decide between Harden, Giannis, AD, LeBron. Not sure where to get to. So yeah, you could either go on this slate 2 paying up and then just stars and scrubs to the max with 2 guys in the 10+ K range. I like getting to Giannis and Harden if you can afford that. But lineups with just Harden, lineups with just Giannis, you can build some really nice lineups because in the mid-range, and I'll filter this by my interest as of right now, In the mid-range, there's a ton of strong plays. Brandon Ingram at $7,000 strong play. All of his teammates really are strong plays today between Ingram, Drew Holiday, and Zion. I have an interest in all three of those players, and they're all right around that $7K price tag. Aldridge is wildly underpriced, even though a tough matchup with a blowout potential risk there of a 12, 13-point spread. He is very nicely priced at $6,200. Then you get into the Will Bartons if there's no Jamal Murray today, and then you get into some other guys down in that range. I really like Cody Zeller today personally. Probably one of the guys who's picking up a little bit lower ownership that I like a lot more in this matchup. The match without Clint Capella is good for him. I guess PJ Washington will impact this if Washington's out again. Again, it's the second night of a back-to-back. I'm not expecting him to play, currently questionable. Let me know if any news drops, by the way, on that, and I'll keep checking. But yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can go and really pick up value. So any news here? No news. Keep getting through these questions for everybody. Make sure I hit on all of them. Beautiful weather in the Carolinas today. Yeah, definitely. Last night was wild. Dropped a 361. Very nice. Yeah, high scoring last night. I think it was Steve or somebody said in chat. Winning scores were like in the 400s. If you pay up for or buy up for Harden, says Dale, and anyone else, you're pretty much stuck with the same center everyone else is going to have. I don't think so. The same center or the same lineup? If you pay up for Harden and anyone else, so if you're paying up for two guys, you think you're going to have a very similar lineup to other people, maybe. I've been able to find value at the wings in those types of builds, but I mean, there's some really clear, great center options on the slate that stand out just more than others, right? Aldridge, center option. Zeller, to me, a center option that stands out. Those are the clear ones, though. I don't really think there's many other just clear standout centers if you're talking about like cheaper value type of plays at that point. I mean, you have Brook Lopez who stands out, but not anything above where I would be getting to those other guys. I believe is I can't remember if Tucker's center eligible. I don't think he's small forward anymore, right? I think he might just be power forward. Would you want at least one of Ingram, Zion, and Drew in cash? That seems pretty good. Like, it depends on how you're building your lineup. So if you're paying up for two studs, you might not be able to get to that 7K range for another player. But I think that one of those guys seems pretty solid. I think if you build a different type of lineup and you get two of those guys, you get Drew and Zion. You get Drew and Ingram. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think your best correlating piece between those two would be Drew and Zion. I think Zion and Ingram cut into each other. They can both surely go for 40 at their price points. I think you can get any combo of the two of them. But I think Drew really does impact Ingram's upside games just because of the assist rate. And he can get hot and just have a ton of shot attempts. But Zion and Drew complement each other's game the most if you're looking to play like two of them for correlation, for them both to really have a bigger game in GPPs. Dallas says, what's wrong with the stream? I don't know what's wrong with the stream. Everything seems fine on my end. Is everything all good on everybody else's end? Is that just an individual user's issue right now? What's McLemore's projection? I have him for 20 fantasy points. He seems pretty fine. That is if I put him somewhere around the 24-minute mark. 20 fantasy points, usage rate, and just point per minute go up a little bit without Harden or without Westbrook and even Capella, but mainly Westbrook on the court in those minutes that he would have. So he goes from like a 0.68 type of guy to a 0.73 for me. He grades out as a really good value. You can see him right here on my screen as the top value on the slate. Just keep in mind, that does not mean he's a guarantee to score that amount of points. They can give more minutes to Sevilosha, depending on how you want to project this. If you give McLemore 20 minutes instead of 24, which I don't think happens, but it could, he becomes not a great play, especially if he's going to pick up 20% ownership or something like that. Thanks for answering, Sal. Big fan of your videos. No problem, Justin. No problem, man. Who's your favorite value play of the night? So that's a good question. It's hard because you have to factor in ownership. If you don't have to factor in ownership, it would be Austin Rivers at 3,600, but he's going to be in damn near 50% of the field's lineups last time I looked at projections. So it becomes a lot more difficult. Factoring in ownership, it's still close for a guy like Austin Rivers. I think a sneaky play is Malik Beasley. I'm not as confident in that. That's more of a GPP play as opposed to Rivers, who's a stronger cash play. But depending on what happens with Jamal Murray, and I still don't think we have any news on Jamal Murray, if Jamal Murray does miss this game, Malik Beasley's I have projected for 24 minutes. I have Torrey Craig projected for 22. Beasley grades out for 18, 19 fantasy points. Nothing great, but he can surely play more than that, and he could also produce more than that. So for a guy who's also in that price range as a pivot to Rivers or McLemore, if you're already chalky elsewhere, I do think Beasley stands out. But I would say it's Austin Rivers, but it's sort of a cop-out. He's the highest-owned guy, but I think a lot of people recognize the value in him. So Rivers stands out. I think McLemore's fine, but he seems like a bit shaky. Some other cheap values that are probably going to be going lower-owned. Malik Beasley. Pat Connaughton is now active. I have him in for 22 minutes. He looks okay on this slate. A little bit more expensive than the Rivers and the Beasleys and the McLemores, but he looks like okay value as well. It's just going lower-owned. So just trying to factor in ownership on some of those guys. Thank you, Sal. Great content. Appreciate that. Do you do your own ownership projections, Sal? I do not. I use third parties. I use about 3 to 4 different sites every day for ownership projections. I honestly don't know how to calculate ownership. I get the concept of how to do it, putting in the work to figure that out. I just rather not reinvent the wheel on that side of it and just use what I would think is credible and valuable third parties. No love for Miles Bridges with PJ out. Is PJ out, though? That's the question. Last I saw, PJ Washington was questionable. I'm projecting him out. Miles Bridges, for me, grades out as, and let's pull up Miles Bridges right now, probably not somebody that I'm going to get to as much as the field. I'm feeling like I'm missing him. So Miles Bridges for me is an okay play. He grades out right now if you're talking about pure value, and let me rank this by value. It's just such a huge slate that there's so many guys cheaper than him that on a bigger slate he would look like fine value, but this slate is so mispriced. Miles Bridges right now is my 23rd value play of the day on a 4-game slate. That's not that great, but look at all the guys that I have above 5x. Like you guys talk about, or people in general talk about 5x value. I have literally right now 41 guys above 5x. So I'm looking at guys that are like 5.3xing for me, which is about 20 players starting at Rozier and above on the screen that you can see. So Miles Bridges is fine, right? We're talking about just small different point projections for him to jump up to being a top 10 value if he scores 2 more points. I think he's fine. He's not a guy who stands out for me in any overwhelming way. And that's pretty much all there is to that. White, Tucker, or Monk? Tucker's the best play of all of them. He'll have the most ownership. I think White is an interesting. I think both those guys between Monk and White are interesting. What happened to Awesome on YouTube? I think they have some sort of strike, so they have to wait like a couple more days from YouTube. I'm not too sure the logistics on how, but something just dumb with YouTube, the way their algorithms are picking things up. When this happens to Lillard, is there any players on that team that score that is a walking bucket ready to score? Denver's notorious for trapping stars. I don't really think they're notorious for that. They've done it a couple times to Harden, Trae Young once or twice, or I think once. But yeah, I mean, McCollum would be the guy that would benefit. Carmelo Anthony would benefit. So if you do see Lillard trapped, and again, they don't usually do that as well without Jamal Murray out there, so another piece to point out. But you would get McCollum for a nice game. I think he's nice at 6,300 price point. I think I'm going with a balanced lineup. I think I'm crazy, GPP. For a balanced lineup, no. I mean, if you're not playing any of the 10K plus players, it's just hard to see you then you're playing like two or three of the Pelicans. Maybe you're in the 9K range around that Anthony Davis range. I don't think you're crazy, but on a slate where Giannis has only a 6-point spread in his game and he's underpriced, Harden has no Russ or Capella and he's underpriced at 12K. I think getting to one of those 10K plus guys, and we haven't even talked much about LeBron, Jokic, right? There's a ton of guys up there that I'm sure somebody's scoring 60 plus today, and usually on 4-game slates, if somebody scores 60, you got to have them. What do you think of the Bucks' cheap values? I think Connaughton looks pretty decent. George Hill is still going to be out for this one as far as I can see. But Connaughton stands out as decent value if he gets the minutes. I don't really care too much ever about playing Wesley Matthews or Korver. That's about it. My boy Devontae just got the call. He's in the 3-point contest. He was hyped. I'm hoping for a big game. Yeah, Mike in the YouTube chat knows Devontae Graham. Pretty cool. I saw the update that he's going to be in it. That's awesome. He's playing at least 32 minutes because it's a 6-point spread for Giannis. I haven't projected for 31. I wouldn't be shocked to see 32 if it stays close. Is it possible no one smashes value in the Milwaukee-New Orleans game? I would say it's not possible. Well, look, if a bunch of guys get injured or if it's a blowout early, but they're so cheap. Like, if you're talking about smashing value, you have Middleton at a nice price point of 73, Giannis at 11.4, so cheap. You go to the other side in New Orleans, and the entire team is underpriced. Favors in the 4K range. Lonzo's the only one who's appropriately priced, but all those guys are very, very cheap today. That Drew, Zion, and Brandon Ingram tier, I would imagine one of them is in the winning lineup. I wouldn't be shocked if 2 of them are in the winning lineup. They are all $600 to $800 underpriced. Zion is the closest to being appropriately priced, in my opinion. What's going on Curry? Said, who would you pick for a GPP between Zion, Grant, Tucker, AD, and LaMarcus Aldridge? 2 of them. So I'll try and factor in ownership here to an extent, but that's a wide range of guys. Like, you can just pick AD and somebody else, and I would just take AD and Zion if you can afford both of them at that point. But it seems like it's more difficult. There's a wide price range of guys there, so I'm not sure what you're going for there, but AD and Zion, they're the guys I've projected the highest out of that group. Is Ingram a better play than Middleton for cash tonight? They're very close for me. I have right now Ingram projected for like a point more. I would prefer. So if you don't have Giannis, I would go to Middleton. If you have Giannis, I would go to Ingram. I have Zeller for 27 minutes. Too much? That if there's no PJ Washington, 27 minutes sounds about right to me. I have Zeller for more than that, I think. Let me check. So I have Zeller for 30 minutes today, and that's assuming PJ Washington doesn't play. And he grades out as a very nice play today. How does McCollum grade out for you? At 6.3, he's a decent cash option, right? Yeah, very decent cash option. McCollum looks like a good play all around. For me, he grades out as my 24th overall play. Don't read into that too much, because if I give McCollum an extra point today, he would grade out as my 14th overall play. So where I currently have him at 33 fantasy points, he's my 24th. If he scores literally one more point, so you're trying to kind of look at the extremes here, he would grade out as a top 15 play. I think McCollum is a very strong play at 6,300. Especially because he's not one of those guys picking up overwhelming ownership like pretty much all of the Houston guys right now. And I know their price ranges are different, but he's going under the radar. You rock. Great job today. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be on until about 6:15, so feel free to get your questions in. If you want to do any super chat donations, feel free to do that as well. Just getting a Patreon question here from John. I'll answer that in a second. He just asks, just curious, you think smaller slates like this 4-game slate are easier or tougher than larger slates? I think less options makes them tougher to actually knock down and win, just because if you miss on one player, it's a lot harder to make up for that. I like Beasley as a punt and Martin. Yeah, I like Beasley more. I think his minutes are more secure if there's no Murray out there compared to Martin's. Not to say that they're secure at all. Thanks, Sally the man. No problem. I'm playing Harden and Gordon and running it back with Bridges. Yeah, nothing negative to say about that. What do you think of Trey Lyles in a potential blowout? Yeah, so I know that there's a wide spread on that one, and 12, 13-point spread, there's a good chance it could blow out. We don't know when it blows out. So Trey Lyles for me is not somebody I'm going to get to today. Obviously, he's never going to project out good. So if you're playing the blowout narrative, I have him for 16 fantasy points at 3,300. Just right now, Trey Lyles ranks out as my 46th play, not in a player pool. So if you're factoring in a blowout, maybe give him 2 to 4 more minutes. He starts to get there, but I probably won't have any. Hey, Sal, appreciate all the content. I have noticed a lot of people have been saying Lillard is not a good play because he can't be on the heater forever. Do you think he can continue? Yeah, so I wouldn't say because he can't be on the heater forever, but that's kind of the logic there, right? So he's like a 1.35, 1.4 fantasy point per minute producer this year / career-wise. He's been producing at a clip of 1.8, 1.85. Damian Lillard is not all of a sudden, as a guard, the new Giannis, right? Or the new Harden without Westbrook on the court. So, yeah, he's not going to keep this up forever. It's just not going to happen. He's playing more minutes, which helps, right? Playing 40, 39 instead of 36, 37. But those will vary as well. Tougher matchup, even tougher if Murray does play. So, yeah, I don't think it's a situation where it's going to continue. I only have him for like 50, 51 fantasy points, so I'm not going to get there. That's where I've been projecting him, though, for the last week. So it is difficult because if you don't have him, you've been losing on a lot of these slates. And that's on those slates, that's what I've been doing, or I've just been barely surviving. But it's a situation where if you've been chasing the 5-game heater, you've been doing very well. But it's going to fall off eventually. And it's really hard for me to median project him at like a 1.7 fantasy point producer when he's never been anywhere near that for any extended period of time. So if I'm trying to create median projections and put them into optimizers and do all other things, factor in ownership, if you want to just play him as a very low on play and think he keeps the heater going, well, yeah, then go for it. That's totally fine. I think every single player above 10K is in play tonight based on where their ownership is and just their overall point projections, right? Jokic, LeBron, Lillard, Giannis, Harden, they're all in play without a doubt. And you're going to get probably Lillard being the lowest owned of those guys. I hope YouTube does not ban you too, Sal. Yeah, so I don't know why. I don't know why. Also, I think the first time they had some link in a showdown contest to DraftKings or something. I don't know exactly why they got a flag in this time around, but I made sure any links that I have to some sort of contest or just fantasy draft, if I'm promoting them or drafters, I now go through Twitter. So maybe you've seen I post something on Twitter and then I just kind of redirect to that. So it should be good unless something else gets picked up, but we'll never find out. Do you have any interest in Jeremy Grant tonight? Jeremiah Grant, somebody said. So Jeremy Grant, no, he's picking up a decent amount of ownership, and I don't think I really agree with it too much. I'm not really interested in Jeremy Grant. Even at 30, I have him at a 34-minute projection too. So Jeremy Grant, Yeah, so at 5,700, I'm just not going to get there. He is right now just like a guy for me right outside the player pool. High 40s in terms of overall play of the day. And if you're talking value-wise, not much interest. So is it possible that no one smashes value in New Orleans Milwaukee game? So I think I answered that earlier, but no, I think there's a really good chance somebody will be just because they're all just so cheap. In the event PJ Washington sits, that's how I have it projected. Is Marvin Williams in play for value? No. With the small lineup Houston is expected to put on the court. That's actually a good thought, Sean. So I don't really have Marvin Williams projected for much right now. I have right now PJ Washington projected out. I put Marvin Williams at 22 minutes, and what I get from Marvin Williams, who's not the greatest of fantasy point per minute producers, and they've been playing Hernan Gomez a lot more, I get Marvin Williams as around a 15.5 fantasy point projection at 3K flat. It actually does. I don't have interest in him. I don't have him on my interest, but he would grade out right now as my 27th overall value right now. So he would be in play for most people. I'm just not getting there because I like some other cheaper guys more. But yeah, nothing terrible to say about that. Elfrid Payton beat up Awesome. I don't know what happened with that. Will Jokic drop a triple-double tonight? This matchup last year in the playoffs went 7 games and Jokic balled every time. Yeah, he played 60 minutes in the one game or something nuts. Was that game? Triple-double tonight. I'm not going to project that. Can somebody let me know how many people are watching? Very curious. I don't see Dame on your list. Yeah, he's very low down. Projected by salary, he'll pop up. I have Dame for 52.4 fantasy points, which is probably more than a lot of people in the industry have him. I've seen him around 50 or so. I have him as a 1.45 fantasy point per minute producer. That's 0.1 more than he's been, as a car comes by, 0.1 more than he's been all season long. So I am projecting Damian Lillard for a lot more than his season average and a lot more than his career average in a tough matchup. So I'm getting him at 52 fantasy points. That grades out 16 less than Harden, 11 less than Giannis, the same pretty much as Jokic and LeBron for me at a more expensive tag. So if you wanted to pivot off of LeBron or Jokic, right, for Lillard, I wouldn't have anything bad to say. It's starting when you start to pivot off of a not that highly owned Giannis and a fine, appropriately owned Harden on this type of a slate, if not under-owned, that's where it starts to become difficult for me. How do you feel about Cody Martin as a last pick? Yeah, I don't really have much interest in Cody Martin. I don't think I'm projecting him as highly as a lot of people are right now. I have Cody Martin for 18 fantasy points at 3,500. He's another guy that you can pivot off of like a Ben McLemore too. I would prefer Malik Beasley if Jamal Murray is out. But Cody Martin right now for me is it's Cody Zeller. Cody Martin right now for me is my 30th ranked value on the slate. So surely right there in play. I'm not getting there. I just prefer Malik Beasley, McLemore, players like that. Beasley would probably be the pivot that I would like a little bit more. I do like the guards. I think Graham is okay. I think Rozier is definitely in play, but Zeller is the Charlotte player that I'm probably going to get the most of tonight. Can you have 4 players from the same team today? I'm assuming you're talking about the Rockets. 4 is the most that I would go to. Just know that you're rostering a lot of bad players, right? Obviously in better spots today without Russ or Capella, but if they're starting who we think they will with Tucker at the 5, you're probably rostering what? Harden, Rivers, McLemore, Tucker, maybe those 4. Those are like the 4 best values that I have right now in here. Just know that there's a good chance one of them goes for 18. But 4 I think is okay. They're all so cheap that as long as Rivers gets his 32 minutes, goes for 25, Tucker goes for 25, you're banking on Harden going for his 70 to 80. I think 4 can get you there. Zeller or Bridges? I'll go Zeller by a wide amount at that point. Thanks, man. I appreciate your take on it. No problem. If Washington is out, do you prefer Bridges or is Eric Gordon a better play? I think that I like Eric Gordon more. Yeah, I like Eric Gordon more right now. I already have Washington projected out, so I do prefer Eric Gordon right now. Do you like Kuzma? Yeah, I think Kuzma is interesting. So you don't know what the minutes are. That's the risky part. I think I put him at 26. Kuzma at 26 minutes right now looks like okay, like an okay play on this slate. Actually looks pretty good. If I give him 26 minutes, he grades out for like 22 fantasy points at 4K. Looks fine. At that many minutes, if you're talking point per dollar values, not in terms of how often I get to him, but looks right around like at the top 10 play on the slate value-wise, right? Point per dollar, not overall like my interest, but that's if you give him 26. If I was to give Kuzma, let's just say I give him 24 minutes, he starts to become a player like I don't even get to, right? So those extra minutes go a long way for Kuzma at that low price point. So it really, it depends what you think the minutes are. I put him at 26. He looks like a fine value. I'll get some of him. If I put him at 24, I would have 0. Did something happen to the Awesemo channel? No, they're on Twitch and like Periscope, but there is something going on with just like YouTube. I don't know. YouTube's being dumb. DiVincenzo is under-owned. Yeah, I agree. I think DiVincenzo and Connaughton stand out as some value plays that are going unnoticed. I don't think they're surefire plays, but I think they're similarly skilled to the Ben McLemores of the world and nowhere near the ownership. Would you go Giannis, Drew, Beasley, or AD, Ingram, Zeller? Yeah, that is tough. Giannis, Drew, and Beasley, or AD, Ingram, and Zeller. I'd probably I'd go with Giannis, Drew, and Beasley there as long as Jamal Murray is out. That is a tough choice, though. You buying into Hernan Gomez actually being the backup instead of Bismack? It's been that way for about a week now, so yeah. 400 or so watching, that's pretty good. That's pretty good for a Tuesday night 4-game slate. Yeah, I'll be on for like another 15 minutes. Then this will obviously take 10, 15 minutes to update. Any differences that come out in the projections until then, I'll be sure to update. Nothing yet though. But yeah, also if you do want, the projections are free today on Patreon, the ones that you're seeing on the screen. You can scroll through everything, see any updates that I do make. These are what is included in the NBA package, as well as now some weekend content if I don't produce some of those days a show, and then if you want the Discord as well. How do you feel about Favors tonight? I'm lower on him than a lot of people. I'm projecting him at 23 minutes. I think there is some sort of cap on his minutes that they're trying to stick to. He can go out and play 26, and I wouldn't be shocked. 28 or 30, I'd be a little bit surprised out of Favors. Just from all the injuries, it seems like they're very slow to want to extend him. 4,900 in the ownership that Favors is out, I'm more likely to avoid it. I have him for a little bit over 25 fantasy points. Yes, if you have him projected for 27 or 28 because you're giving him 24 or 25 minutes, he's going to look like a really good play tonight. If I was to do that, Favors would pretty much look like let's just say I give him an extra minute or two. Favors would end up looking like a top 6 play on the slate. So it's a huge difference because of how cheap these guys are in terms of like their point per dollar. So I give him 23 minutes. I prefer Zion, Ingram, and Holiday before him, and then I would get the Favors from that team. Somebody says hit the like button. There's only 38 likes. Yeah, feel free to hit the like button. Feel free. The thing that matters most is that subscribe button. We're very close to 19,000 subscribers, which then right after that comes 20, and that's a really big milestone. That would be pretty cool. I want to see how close we are to 19,000. We're probably not going to get it on this stream if there's only a couple hundred people watching, but yeah, we're like 150 or so away. I'll be on for like another 12 minutes. Be sure to get any questions you have in. DeRozan question mark. DeRozan's going to go low owned. I think DeRozan, he's priced down from where he was. He's at a fair price point. Everybody's going to want to go to Aldridge because he's underpriced, as you should. It makes sense. But DeRozan, to me, is a very sneaky play tonight that I actually like. He's not going to pick up ownership. You might even get DeRozan at single-digit ownership tonight, possibly. And I don't think he's a terrible play by any means. I have DeMar DeRozan for just under 40 fantasy points. Seems okay at that price point, and he's going to play big minutes. Have him for 36. Wouldn't be shocked if he played more. He's more of a pivot play for me at 7,700. If you already have a chalky lineup, he's the guy that has a ton of upside, going to play big minutes. That can get you there and get you different. How do you feel about Jacob Podol today? I don't have any. I haven't projected for like 14 minutes. Just nothing happens when I do that for him. Love Rozier at his price. Yeah, those Charlotte guards have not been playing well right now. But I think that I prefer Rozier to Graham right now. The ownership does as well. That's just pure point-wise or point per dollar-wise. But if we're talking factoring in ownership, I think Graham's a fine pivot as well. I think that Graham is picking up ownership. He's right there next to Drew Holiday in ownership pretty much. Holiday's a little bit above it. And also points. I would prefer Holiday still, depending on what you're doing with the rest of the Pelicans. What do you think about PJ Tucker? I think that if he starts at the 5, I like him. Yes, he's going to be chalky. Yes, he's an extremely fluky player. Westbrook out will surely help a lot of things for him, as well as Capella being out. But yeah, he's a fluky play. I have him at he's very similar to McLemore. If he starts at the 5 without Westbrook and Capella, it's hard not to like him at 4,400 in a good matchup for Charlotte. 25 fantasy points out of him makes him a top 5 play point per dollar wise for me on the slate. Makes him a very good play. The ownership following it, if he doesn't start at the 5, I would not mind getting away from it. If you have Hardenstein being a surprise start tonight, get to a lot of Hardenstein, lower your exposure to PJ Tucker. Not enough people will be able to do it in time. Bridges is a fine play today. Yeah, that's about it. Bridges is a fine play. I'm not getting overwhelming interest in him, but he makes a player pool for me. Rondo, question mark. I'm probably not going to get to Rondo tonight. Looked like he got a little bit more extension of his minutes in that last game that don't seem like they're going to hold up all that much. But with all the other value out there, Rondo I think I have at 8 or 20 minutes right now, and he just doesn't make a player pool. Do you like Josh Hart for GPPs? Yeah, I've been rolling out Josh Hart in my player pools as of late. He's just consistently getting the minutes still. It seems like Reddit is the one that's missing out on his minutes, getting into the teens now. So, yeah, Hart's, I have him for 28, pretty much where he's consistently been playing. At his price point, I don't really like him all that much with all the other value on the slate. But, yeah, if you're trying to pivot off of Tucker in that range, I think he's okay. How strong of a play is Bledsoe? Should go a little bit lower on today. He's priced up, so that makes him not as strong of a play. Factoring on ownership makes him a little bit better. I have Bledsoe right now, if you're talking pure point per dollar wise, is not somebody that I really overwhelmingly like. He's my 25th favorite play. Ranks out very similar for me today as like a Miles Bridges and a McCollum in terms of factoring in their price points. I would prefer McCollum. I would prefer a lot of other guys in that mid 6K range. So let me go down through it. I would prefer McCollum in that range. So Barton, McCollum, and Rozier I would prefer, and Aldridge before I got to Bledsoe. And then I would prefer Drew Holiday in the 6K range. So there's just a lot of other guys that I like a little bit more. Would you take a shot on Hernan Gomez? He is a good points per minute guy. I'm assuming you mean Willie Hernan Gomez from Charlotte, right? Malviolent. So I'm not going to, no. He is a good points per minute guy, but I'm not going to. Interest in Ariza. Even at like 29 or 30 minute projection, I'm not getting to too much of Ariza tonight. How do you feel about Cody Martin? Seems like okay value if you want to pivot off of like Ben McLemore or somebody. I would still rather have Rivers even at the increased ownership. But Martin for me grades out for around right now. He is my 30th ranked value play. No, is this sorted by value? Yeah, he's my 30th ranked play on the day. So I don't really have much interest. There's so many value plays that I think the two 10+ K options in your lineup today makes a lot of sense because there's a really good chance Giannis and Harden combine for 130 tonight, right? And they can easily go for 140 to 150, and I wouldn't be shocked combined. And at that point, you just need two value plays to hit. So it could be the chalky guys in the Rivers and the McLemores, or it can just be guys, and these are probably the ones that start to win you tournaments, in the Malik Beasleys, the Cody Martins, like somebody mentioned, Pat Connaughton, guys that are lower owned because maybe McLemore and or Tucker and Rivers drop a dud tonight, and then those studs still go off, so somebody has to fill the place of the value. So there's so many value pieces that as long as those guys go off on the top end, somebody in these value ranges is going to be a necessity. And there's a good chance somebody also duds that's popular. You see it every single day. Throws on a back-to-back could go off versus the Lakers. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. Do you like Ariza tonight, Sal? I'm not too interested in Ariza tonight. Where do I even have him at? He's not projecting out great at all for me. I might have Trevor Ariza's point per minute too low. I think I do. If I gave him more point per minute in this type of an offense, I'd probably, I'm not going to have interest in Ariza either way. At 4,800 now, I'm just not going to get there today. Who's the fool's gold value play today? Man, it could be a lot of guys. If Tucker starts at the 5, I wouldn't call him fool's gold, but Rivers or McLemore, I do like Rivers, so I'm probably not going to get off of him, but I would say McLemore. It's not that he's terrible, he's so cheap, but if you're telling me to pick a guy who's cheap that I think is chalky and busts, I would pick McLemore over Tucker and Rivers. If Tucker doesn't start at the 5 and you get a surprise start out of Tyson Chandler or Hardenstein, then you probably end up seeing Tucker be that fool's gold. Hey, Sal, what happened to the Discord? I took a break when I went back to it. I can't find you anymore. Discord's still up. I had an old Discord a while back where I was just any YouTube people can go into it. I didn't want to be responsible for anything going under that umbrella, even with moderators in there, so I deleted that one. There's just my content that was paid for going in there, just other stuff that I didn't want in there. But there's a new Discord that is just Patreon only, so it's one, smaller, which is better for me to handle, but two, also just more concise. I'm starting to wonder if Drew Ingram and Favors might be too many New Orleans for their prices or so low, what they could do. Drew Ingram and Favors in the same lineup. I always hate rostering Drew and Ingram because they're at price points tonight where it doesn't matter as much, but any basketball player negatively correlates with a teammate, but they do on a different type of a level just because of what Drew brings to the table as a scorer and assist-wise and a rebounding guard. Like Drew and Zion, I think, is just a better correlating piece if you wanted to play two. You like Aldridge tonight? I do. So does a lot of other people. I don't think he's any necessity or a lock, but at 6,200, a very strong play, Aldridge. Right now, he's my 10th overall play on the slate. Who from the Hornets do you think will benefit most from the pace-up matchup with the Rockets? It's going to be the guards for me. I think it's going to be Rozier and Devontae Graham. If you think whichever one knocks down more threes, pretty much. Graham's probably going to take more, but he's been shooting terrible. So both of the guards. So you like Grant that much. Neither Favors. I would prefer Favors to Grant tonight. Not getting an overwhelming amount of either, but I'm getting to some of Favors. So what do you think about KCP tonight? Just not the value I want to get to. 25, 26 minutes, bad point per minute producer. He's got his two studs in Davis and LeBron both on the court, whereas some of the other value doesn't. Just not going to get there. Whiteside and Jokic battle. I would prefer Jokic. Sally V, love your grind, brother. You were doing shows during your final exam period at Penn State. Congrats again with the awesome gig. You always said you want to do this full time. Yeah. So I'm yesterday actually officially my LLC launched for just Vetri Media. So yeah, definitely been doing this full time since. I mean, really, I started, I guess, in a way, but since graduating, just was doing it and kind of just put a conscious thought into doing it full time around August. Lakers are going to blow out the Spurs just like they blew out the Kings. Other game, AD killed my lineup. Yeah, that's the concern with LaMarcus Aldridge or AD or LeBron is they play 4 less minutes tonight, 5 less minutes because of a blowout. My dude's out. What's up, play? What's going on, DFS 3? How you doing? Any love for Torrey Craig or LaMarcus Aldridge? Yep, LaMarcus Aldridge stands out as a great play. Blowout risk is the only thing that would worry me there at all. Torrey Craig, I give 22 minutes. I would prefer Malik Beasley there. Pick one. Grant Favors, PJ, or Tucker. I'm assuming PJ is PJ Tucker. I prefer PJ Tucker. If you're very chalky everywhere else, I would pivot to Favors. What do you think of Cody Zeller? I really like Cody Zeller tonight. Factoring in ownership, so Josh Ingram asks, factoring in ownership, as long as PJ Washington is out, Cody Zeller is one of my favorite plays in the slate. Williamson or Brandon Ingram? That's a really good question. I'll prefer if you're just choosing between one of them, Brandon Ingram, but they're really close for me. Like Zion and Brandon Ingram, extremely would not be shocked to see both of them drop 40 points tonight. I'll slightly prefer Brandon Ingram. I think you have more minutes security there, more minutes upside there. PJ Tucker is awful. Yeah, Tucker plays 36 minutes and gets you 6 DK points. Yeah, of course, but he's been starting at the 5. No Westbrook, increases the rebounding rate. PJ Tucker is terrible in terms of fantasy. In real life, he is very good. But yeah, fantasy, yeah, he's a loose cannon in a game usually where you have no Westbrook and Capella, which we've had 10 of these games now this year, somewhere close to that. He's usually been pretty solid in those games. I think Drew bounces back tonight. Yeah, I think Drew's also fine. I think Drew is probably... I think Drew is my favorite Pelican. It would go Drew, Ingram, and Zion. Ingram and Zion extremely close, and then Favors for me. How much is your subscription on Patreon before you leave? Thanks, Al. Yeah, what's going on, Adam? So there's different packages, but all sports packages, $20 a month. Right now I'm doing XFL, PGA, and NBA daily over there. But you can tier up. There's like 3 different tiers. Patty Mills, question mark. I have Mills actually. I'm projecting his minutes rather high today compared to the industry. I think I gave him 24. Even there, he doesn't look good. It's a really tough matchup for guards against the Lakers. Any love for Melo? Yep, Melo looks okay. No strong stance on Melo. I think he looks fine. The ownership's coming in on him. He's in my player pool. I guess I can say that. No overwhelming interest. All right, I'll scroll down a little bit to make sure. Make sure there's nothing else. Sal, best value play, Macklemore or Rivers single entry? I'll take Rivers. Thanks for the XFL video. Awesome. Is it okay to play Connaughton and DiVincenzo in the same lineup? I would only want one of the two. But yeah, no problem. XFL is going to be fun. I'm going to do a couple more videos, a podcast this week on Patreon, another video on YouTube. Brandon Ingram or Drew Holiday? I'll take Holiday slightly there if you're choosing, but both seem fine. What do you think about Josh Hart? He would be my 5th favorite Pelican. I think he's an interesting pivot off of like a PJ Tucker today. Why is Monty Morris projected so low? He's not. Monty Morris is projected for close to 30 fantasy points for me, 29. So he's almost 6K now. So it's just more of a price thing. That's why I'm not getting to him as much. I think I gave Monty Morris 33 minutes. So I got Monty Morris at 32 minutes. So if you give Monty Morris 34, I would get to him more. At 32 minutes, I'm not going to. So if I gave him like 34 minutes, I would get to Monty Morris. at some sort of a clip. Nothing crazy. He'd be close to like a top 20 play for me. But I'm fine not having much of him. Any love for Brook Lopez? I have him in a player pool, so small a little bit. Who do you prefer between LeBron and Jokic? I'll take Bron there slightly. Is House a good play? Yeah, I think he's a sneakier play out of all those guys. He's still going to pick up ownership, but the price is going to keep it a little bit lower. He seems fine. All right, gang, 6:15. I think I'm about to bounce. If you're watching right now, can somebody let me know what we topped out at? But be sure to hit the subscribe button, or what we're at right now. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, daily NBA videos. I'll be on Awesome tomorrow morning. Lock is later tonight. That's 7:30. But appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you. Have a good rest of your night. I've done zero research today. Who's your favorite play? Hard to say on this type of a slate. I really like Zeller. I really like Drew Holiday. I really like Harden and Giannis. About 500 people watching. Cool. All right, gang. Peace out. Have a great rest of your day.